I'm going to be doing a 5.5-inch overhang on my gable ends here. Now I'm going to install some blocks that are 4 inches, and I'm going to sit a barge rafter on top of those blocks. Now, since I'm going to be going down the highway and there's going to be some wind forces, especially from the front of the trailer, I'm also going to install some outlookers that will tie into this, and it will go back to the next rafter, which will be up there. I don't know, I'll explain it later, but I need to make those cuts in this rafter now while I still can. So I'm just going to take a scrap 2x4. I'm going to hold it flush with the top of the rafter, and I'm going to trace around 3 of the sides, and I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to do 3 of them, one about 1.5 foot up from the bottom, 1.5 foot down, and then one right in the middle. So I'm going to install my house wrap now so that I don't have to go up and down a ladder 300 times to do all that. So I bought Tyvek paper. It was double the price of like your big box store generic brands. One mistake I made was I figured that I would just need 1 roll, 3 feet, to do the entire house. I was completely wrong. I actually needed 3 rolls. At $45 a roll, that would have been $100 and something. The 9-foot roll, which would have definitely done the whole house, was $145. And if I would have bought the 9-foot roll, I would have had less seams in my Tyvek paper. So if you're gonna buy Tyvek paper or that generic brand, buy the 9-foot roll so you can just do the whole house really easily. So over here I have this plywood that's hanging off of the end of that stud, 3.5 inches. So I'm gonna have to back nail this with I'm gonna have to back nail this plywood here to the wall that runs the length of the trailer, and I want to wrap my Tyvek paper down and around onto that new wall, at least 1 foot. So I'm going to give myself 1 foot hanging off. I'm going to hold the Tyvek paper flush on the bottom. Since I also need to back nail the bottom right here, I'm going to come up 6 inches and come over 3 inches. And I'll put a cluster of nails right there to act as a pivot point. I'll run the Tyvek paper out, and I'll do the same thing. 6 inches up, 3 inches over, and I'll put some nails there. I'll pull the top tight, put some nails there. I'm going to drag my hand across to take any of the wrinkles out, all the way up to this corner. And I'll put some tacks there. I'm using staples versus the nails with the plastic washers. Those plastic washers and nails add out, they stick out about 1/8 of an inch. Now if you're going to do some type of sadding that you need to sit flat, that's going to affect that. These staples are fine. It's going to hold the Tyvek paper, and it's also probably cheaper. These red dots mean absolutely nothing, okay? You don't have to put a nail on each one of those red dots or a staple. Just go approximately 16 inches wide, go every foot or so, or 8 inches. From the end of my plywood, I'm going to come up 1 foot, and I'll cut the Tyvek paper. Now, since I didn't go with that 9-foot roll, I'm going to have to overlap this Tyvek paper. You want about 6 inches of overlap, and you also want that extra paper to come down. Put a cluster here and do the same thing over and over again. Shooting blanks. My mother always said, I wish your father did too. I don't know what that means though. Since I won't be doing the siding for a long time, I'm going to have to stare at this Tyvek paper for a long time. So I really want it to be done right, or at least look right. So I'm making sure that the word Tyvek is in correct orientation. If I were to start from this end and run the Tyvek like this, it would be upside down. So it just takes 2 seconds to go to the other side and run it the other way so that the Tyvek word is oriented correctly and it looks right. Once I have all the Tyvek nailed down, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take this extra piece that I had hung off the side. I'm going to fold it back and just put a light staple into it so that when I come up the ladder, I just have to back nail that, and then I can undo those staples that I put in this to tack it. I also have to back nail this bottom, so I'm going to fold this bottom 6 inches up. And I'll put a couple light staples in that too. That way, that is completely done. So all I have to do now is raise this wall up, put it in place. I can back nail all the plywood. Once I back nailed all the plywood where it's got to go, I can undo all these tack staples that I put in, fold the Tyvek paper down, and fold it into place and put it where it's got to go. I'm going to build my overhang on it right now while it's still down here. Since I'm going with a 5.5 inch overhang, so my 1x6 soffit will cover it completely. I need to cut some blocks at 4 inches because my barge rafter, which will be that outside piece, is 1.5 inches thick, which will give me 5.5 inches. So I'm going to cut 8 blocks at 4 inches. So when I'm nailing these blocks, I want this top of the block to be flush with the top of the rafter. And I kind of got to sight it down because my plywood's cut back a little bit. Now where I made that cut for the outlooker block, I want to have a block right next to it. So I'm just going to hold the block flush with the inside of that and flush on the top. When I nail these blocks, I'm going to put 2 nails on one side and 1 nail on the other side. Now the barge rafter, I'm going to run it long on both ends and I'm going to cut it after. But right now I'm just going to place it on top and nail it so I'm flush on the bottom of this block. So to figure out where the barge rafter gets cut, I need to square this up right here. If I take my framing square and I place it so it's flush with this rafter, and I bring and I slide this framing square over so it's flush with the end of this rafter, hold it real tight, I can put a mark here. Every time I do something, I'm checking it like 3 or 4 times. You're not seeing it, but I check everything multiple times. Now that I have that mark, I'll put a reference mark on top. Now to get this mark right here, it is a 7.13 degree, but because your framing square is more accurate, I'm going to hold 1.5 inches here, hold 12 inches on the top there. So I got 1.5 inches here, 12 inches there, and I'm good with my mark. I'll square that down right there, and that'll be my cut. And to check something like that, you can place the framing square on top and bring it over until you butt into your bottom rafter, and it should line up with that mark, which it does. Now this wall is completely done. It's ready to get stood up like I did last night on my date. Oh my God. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you will, hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, and if you would like to, top right corner, make a donation. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be doing an overhang on my Peanut.
I will kill it. I'm telling you, dude, I want it dead. I don't know what it is, but if I catch it, I will kill it.
Peanut, come here. You're psycho. You're psycho.
I don't care.
Oh, big hit. Big hit. That was like a hockey fight, man. The motherfucker would have been knocked out.